Welcome back today, ladies and gentlemen. With me today is Mr. Jeff Mack. He's a local fighter, and I was finally able to get him in here today to do a promo for his upcoming fight. Where he's an old time friend, and it's been a while since we've got to kind of talk, or I ain't seen him. He's a father now and everything. So we're gonna go ahead and get him on here and see what he has to say about his upcoming fight. Hey, Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah, man, I hear you good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Um, I know our schedule's been kind of difficult trying to get it linked up here, and I'm glad that we were able to get this telecommunication thing going. And I'm just happy to have you on, man. It's been a while.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, it's great to be here. I'm thankful for you having me on, brother. It's been a long
Oh yeah,
time.
feeling is mutual, man. So it's been a long time. So as we've done said, you got a kid now and everything, man. How's the father life treating you?
It's the best life, man. That the little dude changed a lot for me. And I get him every other week, so the week I have him, it's a blast. It's fatherhood's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'll be able. I could tell you from your social media page that you can always tell. I don't know. There's like a, not trying to be weird, but there was like a sparkle in your eye now that you have a kid. It's just weird. Your guys' photogenic pictures are always good to see, and it's nice to see friends that have, a fatherly impact on their kids' lives. Not, we know a lot of we know
I
several
actually, I've
people mutually.
yeah, for sure. I've heard the same kind of thing, so it's not weird at all. I take a lot of pride in being his dad nowadays. So that's kind of where my priorities have shifted over the last few years. But focus is set to something else for 4 more weeks.
So, oh yeah, I want to touch base on that. So, you're how old are you now, Jeff?
Man, I'll be hitting
You be hitting how old?
getting old,
Sounds like
man.
I think you broke out a little bit
Did
there.
I
How old
break
did you
up?
say you were going to be?
I said I'll be hitting the big 3-0 here in June.
Yeah, yeah, me too in this October. So,
Getting
when
up
did you
there, man.
start? When was your first when you first knew you wanted to fight? Like fighting was something that you were like, yeah, this is something I want to do, whether it gets me professional, semi-pro, or just for casual fun.
Well, when I was growing up, I was always hot headed and I was always an athlete and I wrestled from I started when I was 5. So I always kind of had that aggression. And like I said, I was a hothead. So I got into fights and scuffles anyway. And once I moved to Bethel, I actually met who's still my very good friend today, Cody Gableman, and his dad owned a gym. And pretty much the minute that I started training, I knew that I wanted to fight. But I was like 12, so I had to wait like 6 years to be able to actually fight. So but I knew, man, we trained hard, and I knew from that point, like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm supposed to do.
So, at 12 years old, what's it? When you started training and stuff, were you training to be like a boxer? Were you doing like judo? Like what? And furthermore, how do you know what kind of fight styles for you? Do you just like pick it up as you're training? Is it something you go in like, yeah, I'm gonna fight southpaw, or I'm gonna fight, however it goes? Like, what's that whole mindset like?
Well, I feel like it all starts from whatever base you come from. So, like for me, I was a wrestler. I came with that wrestling base already. So, that was how I just naturally geared my fighting too. So, I started training in Taekwondo when I was 12. When I got into all this, it was a Taekwondo studio, also an MMA gym. So, I pretty much my two base arts that I started with was Taekwondo and Jiu Jitsu on top of my already known wrestling background.
Damn, so you kind of already had an edge coming into it. Like, what's the like? So wrestling is mostly grappling. Obviously, I know that. And then what's the big difference between judo and taekwondo?
Man, I think every time that my phone blacks out, it goes blank.
Yeah, it probably.
All right, I've got her fixed, I think. Where was I, big dog?
All right, you there? Can you hear me now? We
Mhm.
all good again?
Yeah, I think my screen when it like blackens, I think it cuts it off.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
touche.
just turned my screen timeout off.
All
So
right, yeah, no big deal. So did you hear my question of the my question was wrestling is grappling. I get that mostly. And then you've got judo and taekwondo. What's the big like the pros and cons to each one and what's the big difference between the two?
So with wrestling, you're very top based. Wrestling, you obviously you don't ever want to be on your back. It's pin
It's like
is
how
a
you get pinned,
loss.
right?
Right, correct. So with jujitsu, for example, jujitsu is the exact opposite. It's you're very comfortable off your back. It's okay to be on your back. There's a lot of submissions you can get from off your back, which in turn end the match or fight, whatever. Uh, Judo is very similar to wrestling, but it's like a little bit of a jujitsu aspect of it. Um, Judo, there's a lot of takedowns and throws, some submissions, but it's mostly takedowns and control.
So it'd be more of an aggressive compared to like the
Yes,
passive.
yes, absolutely. Like jujitsu would definitely be considered more passive, more relaxed, where wrestling is more aggressive and what I don't know if powerful is the word, but it's more of a strengthening kind of art. Most wrestlers you run into are just very physically strong. Whereas a lot of jiu-jitsu guys you run into, they're very relaxed and they're a lot of them are slender and just normal everyday guys. Uh,
Super loose.
yeah, very loose because that's the key with jiu-jitsu, right? You want to be loose and flexible and be able to catch submissions and just kind of flow. Which you can flow in wrestling too. It's just a different kind. Wrestling's a little bit more intense.
Right.
That's the better word to say is intense.
And then the taekwondo is your last pillar.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was basically wrestling as my start, and then it was mostly jujitsu and taekwondo. Taekwondo was definitely my first striking uh, fighting style that I learned, and I mean it was awesome, man. Lots of kicking techniques I use today. Still, I've adapted a lot over the years, and I've gotten more like different types of training. I've worked with some boxing coaches now and some Muay Thai coaches, and I've gotten a little bit of everything. So now I'm a little bit more versed. But at the time, man, Taekwondo was awesome. Learning turn side kicks and high round kicks and just learning how to actually strike on my feet was super cool. I
Right. I
was
can imagine so.
Yeah, man, I was really hell bent on striking in my first like few fights, and I reverted back to the wrestler in me, and I was shooting for takedowns really quick. So it just takes time.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure. I mean, fuck, you're at what? You 29, so 12. You're looking at 15, 16, 17 years of this shit.
Right? Yeah, man. It feels like it's been forever.
So do you think that when you started doing these, taekwondos, these trainings and stuff as a younger lad, that it kind of helped you cooler head prevail type deal? Like it was more of like, well, I know I can fuck you up, so there's no need to fuck you up.
Yeah, man. Like I mean, for sure, because I had a really hard time with losing in the beginning too. Like as a wrestler, I took losing really really hard. I had my fair share of temper tantrums that led to a lot of apologies to teammates and coaches and the audience and whatnot. So really being as disciplined in fighting with MMA and Taekwondo and Jiu Jitsu, it was really humbling. It really, really brought me down a notch and it kind of taught me like, you know what, like it's okay if you can lose, but you just got to learn. You got to learn from the loss
Right.
and get a little bit better. And I never thought of it that way. I was just always so hard on myself that I lost that, I didn't see what benefits I could gain from it. So martial arts helped with that immensely.
Well, and I also think that one of the things that I don't think people really understand the difference between those type of sports and a team sport, and I think why you're so much harder on yourself compared to being in a team element is because it's all you. And I remember when I was younger, my dad used, I never really was big into wrestling after junior highish, but um, I remember him always saying like, you can always blame it on someone else when it is a team effort, but when you're there by yourself, it's only you and that other guy on the mat. You know what I'm saying? You can't really
Absolutely.
blame anything else but yourself, whether it was unpreparedness, unconditioned, whatever it may be.
And that's the truth. That is to a T exactly. That's how I look at it. And I know that's how a lot of guys look at it. It's when you get out there, you know, you got your coaches and your teammates that are in your corner, so to speak. But at the end of the day, the outcome of the match is on you, and it's
Right.
or the outcome of whatever you're doing, boxing, fighting, whatever. But when it's you and another opponent in there, that's it. So
Hmm.
I think it is a lot easier to look harder on yourself in defeat, but I think that's also just a part of the maturing process and in learning what really makes, you know, a good fighter or a good martial artist, however you look at it.
Right, and that was my next question. You said that when you were your first training gym was a Taekwondo, Jiu Jitsu, and the MMA. So I know that uh, those other um, those other ways of fighting, like Taekwondo, I know they
Mhm.
have their own pro elements of stuff like competitions and stuff. What led you to the more I want to get in the cage and fuck someone up compared to hey, I want to get out there on the mat, score points, throw them around?
See, I just always liked to fight. Always enjoyed the combat part of it. And I mean, jujitsu, I have definitely competed in my fair share of jujitsu tournaments and things of that nature. But I always like the element of someone can get knocked out in this fight at any moment. Like a lot of jujitsu is gi based, which is the uniform that they wear, and I really never liked gi. I never got into it, man. It was just always very boring to me. And I mean, as a beginner, like as I was getting into it more, uh, doing jujitsu tournaments could help anybody that's fighting MMA. Period. It would help them a lot, but you run the risk of injuries and things happening by doing these extra, you know, tournaments or grappling events,
Right.
whatever. And that's just injuries was something that always plagued me too. So I just was always trying to focus on the one thing that I was trying to do.
So growing up, how you were doing that stuff? When did you said you couldn't actually fight until when? When were you actually allowed to start throwing down in the octagon?
18.
18 years old.
Yeah.
So at 18, you graduated high school. You're getting into the fighting. What did you ever think about like seriously buckling it down and taking it pro, or because like now I see and we'll get to the pro, the stuff that you're doing nowadays, but back then was it ever like a big thing where you were like fuck yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be like the next Rich Franklin or Forrest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, me and my best friend Cody Gableman, who was also my teammate. He was a great fighter as well.
Real quick, Jeff, my bad. Explain the whole teammate thing in that aspect now, because obviously I know it's not like WWE where you guys tag each other in,
Right.
obviously. um is it just you guys go to the same gym
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you
Teammate, as
fight under
in
that gym?
yeah, teammate, aka training partner, corner man. You know, just someone. Yeah, my main training partner, so to speak.
So you guys fight under the same banner basically?
Yes. Yeah, we were on the
Okay.
same team for a very long time, and I mean, and there was a roster of us, dude. There was probably 12 of us active fighters, kind of as a team together, and we show up to the events together. You know, several times there would be like 4 or 5 or 6 of us fighting the same night. So we
Now
go
how
in
does that
there,
does
do what?
I'm sorry to interrupt you
Oh, you're
again.
good.
How does that work in the gym element? Like, does the gym, whoever's hosting the fight, does the gym just throw up fighters that they're gonna represent the gym, or do the individual fighters be like, yeah, I want to fuck him up. That's gonna be my next fight.
Well, at the time, with us being all under the same gym, had the same coach, our coach handled all that. You know, he set the fights up. We didn't really ask questions. We fought who we were told to fight, and you know that was kind of that. There was times where we had fought like 2 weeks in a row, like back to back. Like we at the time we would fight anybody. It was really hard for us to even find fights. To be honest, we were getting guys dropping out and canceling left and right. Couldn't get matched up. So we didn't deal with any of that. Uh, when I was at that point in my career, our coach handled all the fights and the shows and all that. We just showed up and trained and fought on fight night.
Right. But going back to when you were 18 and getting all this, you and your best friend
Yeah, man, it was a trip really because
We're at the same gym doing your thing.
yeah, we were just killing it, and we were both very, very successful amateurs. We just always had big plans from the moment really that our friendship began, that we were going to be on this ride together, and we were both going to end up in the UFC, and he was going to take over 125 and I was going to take over 135, and that was just it. And that's what we believed for, a long time.
Yeah, and I'm sure with age, that was the other thing I was going to bring up. So you're getting up there in age now. Does that ever worry you about when it comes to a serious injury or?
Yeah, man, that's one of the biggest things now, just being an adult, working every day, providing, sorting through this crazy life stuff like everybody else. It's just it's a lot different dynamic than it was when I was free and, 19, 20, 21 years old with, no cares in the world. It definitely is it's different, and jumping back into it now at almost 30, I can see that it's not quite as easy to just dive back
Oh,
into
I'm sure.
training, full bore like it was, 5 years ago. It's
Right.
strange.
So was there a big injury or something that happened early on that kind of strayed you away from continuing? Because I feel like, I mean, like I've seen you in your videos, I've seen your sparring stuff, your fighting stuff. Like I just feel like if that's been you this whole time, then I feel like you would have definitely went somewhere with it. So I mean, I feel like something had to have bumped you along the way.
Yeah, well, I had a little setback back in 2019. I blew my shoulder out, and I was out for 5 months, something like that, 6 months, and that was a hit. But I recovered from that. Really, man, what really held me back was the partying, the believe in my own hype. That was my biggest bump that really hit me and wouldn't let me go any further. I believe that I could have been a lot further along, but, you know, I was too busy kind of living this little local celebrity life for the few years that I was in it. And that's a typical thing you hear from a lot of athletes, man. You can't buy your own hype. You gotta believe that you're just always that hungry dog. Even when you're the champ, you still gotta be that hungry dog. And I think I just lost a little bit of love for it and fell into the spotlight locally a little bit too much.
Right. So you would say local support like that is a double-edged sword, or do you think it was just like your own mentality being that young,
I think it was
and it's
a
like,
lot of it was my own mentality because I love the support. I've always thrived off of uh, the crowd and the people that show up to support me and the people that message me. I've always thrived off that. It was just, you know, invited everywhere. Everyone knew me, and it was real
yeah,
easy to just have a great time.
right. So were you training a lot back in those days that I had met you originally at the
Yeah,
partying scene?
yeah. I was training a lot then, but I was also dealing with legal trouble and not having licenses and having to get rides to and from and
Right.
all that mumbo jumbo, and it just really took a hit on my focus. But I was still able to get to parties and do stuff like that. So
Yeah, right, right.
it was like, was I really as focused on the task at hand as I could have been? No.
What would you say is your favorite fighting style right now?
Oh man, that's tough. Like I uh I definitely am. I lean more towards the strikers these days. So probably kickboxing. I love a good wrestler too. I like wrestlers that do damage. I don't like wrestlers that just wrestle and
Right.
control. Like I think that there's a different sport for that called wrestling. But if you're a wrestler that you're slamming people, you're ground and pounding people, and you're finishing them, I'm all for that. But
Right.
I think that fights should come with excitement, and if you're yawning or looking at your phone during a fight, then you're not putting on a very good one.
Oh yeah, 100% can agree with that. Yeah, yeah. I would definitely say that.
Like I'm a big believer that like people pay the money to see it, that you should do everything in your power to make it a fun one.
Nice. I like that mentality. I like that mentality. How many I guess I'd call them amateur fight. Yeah. How many amateur fights have you been in like officially?
So I was 12-3 as an amateur. So 15 fights as an amateur.
And then you're going in for your 16th one in April?
I'm going into this is my 7th pro fight in April. So
Okay. So,
once you turn pro, it doesn't erase, but you start back over at 0.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about that then. Tell us about that ride, man. Like you, so you're 12-3 as an amateur. How do you get promoted? How do you break out of that? Oh, I'm just sparring at the gym. Oh, I'm having a fight every once fucking however long it is. I mean, I understand you guys were banging out every other week or
Yeah.
whatever, but there's other cats where you'll see, I feel like, that are, 50 some fights, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they got 50 fights under their belt
Yeah.
as a pro. So I can only imagine how that is, how their amateur fights and all that other stuff was. So tell us about the come up process being, uh, average Joe at the sparring gym to the pro fighter now.
Yeah. So it's really crazy because like every gym is different. Every state is different in their requirements to go pro. So every state has like a quality per se that you have to hold to go pro, or a standard you have to hold to go pro. Some states it's you got to have 5 fights with a winning record, 5 amateur fights with a winning record to go pro. Some states are more, some are less. Some are like, yeah, you just can't go pro off a loss. You can go pro after one fight, but it's got to be a win. Like it depends on the athletic commission in that state and what your gym believes. We had a rule at G-Force that was you had to have at least 10 fights before you could even think about going pro. And even if you wanted to, it was really up to your coach and how he felt more than how you felt. Uh,
Does it ever
just a
get
respect thing.
political in that aspect? Is it ever political then?
Um, it could be, depending, maybe if coach didn't like it, didn't like the idea, and you did, maybe it would turn into something like that. But I mean, I know for us, like it was pretty much just like, okay, if coach thought we were ready, then we were gonna go, kind of
What
thing.
what would cause a coach to be like, "Yeah, I don't think so, Jeff. We're gonna have to hold you back a couple more."
Maybe if he thought like you hadn't been tested everywhere you needed to be tested, because really all the amateur is experience and it's basically live training. I mean,
Right.
if you're a guy that, for example, you just ran through everybody as an amateur, you ran in there, you were a great wrestler, and you just took everybody down and submitted them all with a rear naked choke, and every fight pretty much went the same way. Well, then when you go pro, that might work for the first one or two, but then you're going to find someone that's happened to before and he knows how to stop it. So then when he stops what you do best and puts you somewhere you've never been, and now you panic. Now panic sets in because you've never seen this before, because you ran through everybody. And that's something that happens a lot nowadays. People, they set up very, very mismatched fights and just hoping to, kind of skyrocket one person to the big show. And it works sometimes, but sometimes, it backfires when they start running into real solid competition.
So that's how you know the difference between hype and talent is once
Yeah.
they may be 12-0, but then you see them get knocked clean the fuck out, and you're like, oh, okay, he's
Yes.
that was
Yeah. And that's why when that happens, sometimes you scratch your head. You're like, okay, a guy that was, 9-5 just starts to do that was 5-0. Well,
right,
it's probably because the guy that's 9-5 has been through the trenches. Like he's been through fights where he's been hurt bad. And maybe you've never even been rocked before, but this dude's been rocked and came back from it and won. He just knows what it's like to be in that fire. I mean, Dustin Poirier is a great example of it. And when you talk like big time,
right, touche.
yeah, he's a great
He's a
example of,
dog.
yeah, dude. That's the best way to describe him. The guy just, no matter what fire he's in, he's okay with it. He's comfortable. And
Yeah,
that's something that's, as a fighter, that's very hard because you only get to train for that when you're in the fight. You don't get to train for that when you're getting ready for the fight.
right. That's why I've always liked watching the Diaz brothers stuff too, man,
Yeah,
because they're both dogs too.
yeah, absolutely.
So you said G Force, the gym that you were. I don't. Are you still with G Force or?
Oh, they actually disbanded a few
Oh,
5 or 6 years
tragic.
ago. Yeah, it was a shame because they were in my opinion, we were the toughest gym in the area around that I could find.
How
We had
many?
we, we had a lot of
I'm.
talent, man.
How many? I'm sorry. How many gyms are? How many gyms have you faced off against? I'll ask first, and then how many
Oh,
gyms are there in the area?
shoot, man. I couldn't even tell you all the different gyms that we fought against, but uh, some notables, some solid, very solid, good gyms around here are like Son of Siam and Team Vision and Club MMA. Like there's some very good high level gyms around here, but at the time, shoot, there wasn't nobody like G Force. But
Do you
uh,
ever do gyms ever get like powerhoused? So like you know how like in basketball or something, you'll see different all star players come and play for one team. Do gyms like recruit people, or do you just start
at
training at
a
that gym and move on through there?
at a higher level, yes. Like at with once you want, if you're like a big renowned gym, then guys are gonna fly out to you and do their camp with you and then leave, kind of thing. Or they might stay there, they might move there permanently. There's no gyms like that around here. I would say the closest powerhouse kind of gym would be like Immortal MMA training center, which is Matt Brown's gym, and that's in Columbus. And I know
And
that
that's
that
the
place.
Ohio's. That's Ohio's
Yeah, I
like
would
top
say
dog.
so. Yeah, man, they're I mean they're pretty stacked. There's a lot of good gyms throughout Ohio. Ohio's a pretty big fighting state, really.
What else are you gonna do except get intoxicated or fight or enlist or
Right, dude. I mean, a lot of tough guys in Ohio, man. I mean, and another good example of that's Cody Garbrandt, dude. He's from up north Ohio, closer to like Canton and stuff. He man,
we
one of our
had?
teammates. Do what?
I was gonna say I'm sorry. We had that local guy over here in Loveland. What was it? The deaf cat.
Matt Hamill.
Matt Hamill.
Matt
Yeah.
Hamill actually he owns a gym over in like Milford now.
Yeah. I was gonna say I know
Yeah.
he's local as fuck.
Yeah, man, he runs a gym over there, and they've got some good up and coming guys, from what I hear. See, that's the thing with me now, man. Is I'm kind of out of the scene a little bit. Like I haven't been like technically actively training in a while. I fought 2 years ago, but then after that, man, I trained for a few months, and then I just kind of have been focused on lifting stronger. So this
Right.
whole fight now really kind of came out of the blue. Like they were doing a show in Mount Orb, and I just was like, man, I'm probably never going to get the chance to fight this local. Um, so I jumped all over it, and we've uh we've got ourselves a fight next month. So it really kind of came fast, man.
Right.
Like right
Um.
now, I don't technically have like a team, an MMA gym necessarily that I'm like training under. I'm bouncing around and
Like a freelancer.
exactly. Yes, man. That is exactly like a cheap whore. Like I'm just bouncing around, man, getting any of the work that I can get. Because in my head, I know how to fight, man. I've been doing this a long time. I've got skills. I've got skills that I know can be problems for people, and I really need to just tune them up and get in good shape. And I can do this thing. So that's really what I'm trying to do. Is and kind of my last couple fights haven't went quite the way I wanted. I won some, lost some, but I really am just looking for that performance that I know I can have. That's my like biggest goal. I want to put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, your fights. I mean, you've always looked good in the octagon. Like you always looked at home. There's just like a few like little things, man. I'm sure you catch it in the film afterwards, but
Hmm.
it's just like, damn, that one little thing would have went a
Yeah,
whole different way.
man, it's always been the mental aspect of it. That's always been the heartbreaker for me. It's always been a head game because that's just something people just don't get, man. It's definitely a mind fuck. That's for sure. The whole process is so.
Right.
But that's just something that, yeah,
So I want to
you
walk.
know.
I want to walk you back a little bit to the amateur level. Um, at what point did you start feeling you were like, yeah, I'm gonna get the pro promotion. You know, I- did you feel comfortable? Was your coach comfortable? Like, how was that whole transition from going from amateur to pro?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was pretty good. Coaches felt I was ready. Looking back now, I feel like I could have won maybe another couple, but it really just kind of is what it is. But I didn't feel that way then. Then I felt like I was the man. So like I started out
Did you ever
eight and
feel held
0.
back?
Uh,
Because like you said, you started out 8-0. Like you said you had to go through 10 fights at G Force. I apologize.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that was the rule. And like I was 8-0, and like Cody was like, I think Cody, when I was 8-0, I think he was 10-1, I think, or 11-1. So like we were just storming through people, man. And uh I had my first loss. I kind of hit a roadblock, got caught. In my head, I was like, that was a fluke. Took a fight 2 weeks later, man. I lost the same exact way. I got armbarred again, the same arm. And it was like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back here and look at some things. So I went from 8-0 to 8-2, like, bam. Like,
On arm
so
bars, back to back arm
yeah,
bars.
yeah, man, that's been pretty much the my route to losing, really. And it's a like I said, it's a mental thing because, like, I mean, I've defended arm bars 1,000 times, so it's a positional thing and it's a mental thing, and that was always like something that I couldn't figure out for some reason in that moment. But I've kept my arms pretty safe the last few years, so
Now, did
hopefully
they
that.
tell you? Did they tell you going into a fight? Yeah, you're going pro. You knew you were going pro, or did you just
Yeah,
win one night, got out of the ring, and they're like, "That's it, buddy. It's time to step up."
yeah. I mean, kind of. I mean, we pretty much knew that it was getting close when I went pro. We had just a common understanding that, yeah, we're looking to get this turned up. I think actually I was gonna go pro, and then there was a mishap with the fight I was gonna have. It ended up dropping out, so I took another amateur fight, and then I ended up going pro after that. But I traveled. My first three pro fights were all like away. You typically have your pro debut at home and get a big crowd and
Right.
get a big win, but my first three were out of town away, which kind of sucked. But
How far have you
mm,
had to travel before?
shoot, dude, my last one I went to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It was like 8.5 hours.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
And you
And that,
drove, I'm assuming.
yeah, we drove, man. It wasn't the funnest time, but it was all
Take
right. I had a
took
I
you
had
back
a
to the
really good weight cut, luckily.
took you back to the CCS days.
Yeah, dude, it really did. Actually, that was the one thing. Anytime I make a long drive now, that's literally how I think about it. Like, well, I've done this before. It's all
Yep,
right.
100%. Um, what other hobbies outside of fighting do you have?
Man, honestly, I live in the gym, man. That's my number one hobby. I love working out. I love feeling good. I love doing things with my son. That's my other thing. I like going out and taking him places, and I kind of like a stay in my own lane kind of guy these days, man. I only talk to a couple people. My circle's really short. I keep to myself. Uh
What would you say is the coolest or your most favorite memory that you've had with your son so far?
Man, there's been a lot of them. I'd say recently, man. Recently, he's big into superheroes. He loves the
Nice.
Avengers and he loves DC. He loves it all. And I took him to his first Cyclones game, and it was the Avengers night, and he didn't know. But when the game was over, we were leaving, and he spotted all these different superheroes.
Nice.
And man, it was just a trip. How amped up he was over that. He
Oh, I bet.
he really believed, like, man, they're real. He's
Right.
like, he really did. And I
This
was
is
like,
way cooler than the hockey game.
yeah, man, he's asking like where the other ones are, and I'm trying to come up with these ways to
Out saving the
defer.
world, man.
That's what I said. I'm like, man, they're probably up the street fighting bad guys, man. Like, If they were all here, all the bad guys would have free reign, dude.
Right.
But
Uh,
yeah,
is
man, that was a trip.
is he into the whole fighting thing too?
Um, Not really, man. He's 5. He don't really quite grasp, but he's starting to get aggressive. I'll say that. And he
Well, he
told me
wouldn't
he
be
wants
yours if he
to.
didn't.
Right. I mean, and he said he wants to wrestle this coming year. So we're working on that. But yeah, he's not. He doesn't quite understand it yet. But like he said, he's definitely aggressive. He's been punching on me over the last like couple months and being rougher. And he goes to the gym with me too very often. So he's always seeing me hitting the bag or working out, whatever. Oh,
Right.
look, actually, this week I was at the gym and I was doing a set, and I look over and he is full sprinting on the treadmill. This dude was running 7 miles an hour on the treadmill. I was like,
Damn.
"What the?" I was like, "What are you doing?" Scared the shit out of me, man. Because I'm like, okay, in his head, he's just like Superman. He's fast,
Right.
but in my head, I'm like, boy, as soon as you get tired,
Yeah. How you
you're
gonna
in
get
big
off?
trouble. Yeah, you were in big trouble. So I like ran over and I dropped it down to 3 miles per hour and he got mad. He's like, dude, like that's slow. I'm like, I understand that, dude, but you can only go full sprint for so long. And you don't,
Right.
you can't catch yourself because you're so little.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's a trip.
Your buddy Cody, does he fight at a gym currently, or is?
No, he's retired.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man, he retired and he actually hurt his leg. We were working together and he broke his leg.
Oh fuck.
And yeah, dude, it was pretty wild. Snapped his shin bone like in half,
Ugh.
basically. Yeah, man, like right above the ankle. And he's got like a rod in his leg and stuff now. So
Oh
he's
yeah.
he's always thought he's contemplated it. I've tried to rope him back in, but that leg, man,
That's
he
a whole
just
nother
doesn't.
monster.
Yeah, man, it is for sure. I mean, he's actually, if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I would be fighting still at all because he's been my corner man through the last like 4 fights where I've not really had a gym. I've just been trying to do my own thing. And he's cornering me for this one. He does a lot with helping me get ready and game planning for whoever I'm fighting. So he's still a big help in my corner. Every now and then he'll do some rounds with me, but me and
Nothing too
him, man,
heavy.
we've been training for so long, man. We just have that chemistry.
Right.
We can go kind of hard without really going hard on each other. Like
Right.
it's kind of different.
What was I gonna say? I was gonna ask. Oh, so you're a pro fighter now. What's the? How do you get to that next step of being like in like a UFC type deal? Because there's more than just UFC nowadays too. I've noticed that.
Yeah, there's a lot of avenues for success, really. But UFC is still the top dog, man. They're just, and I think they probably always will be. But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of route, man. A lot of this game is about who you know, um, and it's about just seizing an opportunity because a lot of times you're going to get thrown in there on short notice. You're going to get an offer to fight, maybe fight a guy that just got kicked from the UFC. He went like 1-3, so they cut him. And now you get a call on short notice to fight that guy. Well, I mean, it's still on a big show, on a televised show. And if you beat that guy, all it takes is the right person seeing that. That's like, hey. And now with social media and how blown up that is, if you do anything crazy, it's caught on film.
Right. Yeah. True
And then
that.
bam, all of a sudden you blow up. Like,
And have you noticed that there's like a lot of underground fighters and stuff nowadays too? Like it used to be, Kimbo Slice was that big name in the underground world, and then all of a sudden you've got all of these off knitted, fights. On
oh,
Facebook especially, I see them all the time.
yeah, absolutely. Like street beefs and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they get a lot of bad rap, but I mean, you can't really knock them. I mean, I know for sure. I mean, it takes a lot to just agree and get into like an agreed upon fist fight. It takes some cojones to do that and to
Right.
follow through with it. I've known a lot of guys that trained for 3 months hard or 6 months really hard and got to their first fight and then just flaked out, man, and just didn't come, just quit showing up the last week or two, just got scared and and didn't go through with it. So regardless of record, if you step in there and you do it, then there's a level of respect there from everybody.
So that's my next question: is how does that mentality unfold for you specifically? So you've got a guy that you've never met, you ain't got no beef with this dude, but you got to go in there and bloody him up. How does that warrior aspect get into your? How do you get into that mind frame?
For me it's just all about competition. Like I look at it very similar to a wrestling match, which I've had a lot of. So to me, I'm just already used to that one on one kind of camaraderie where one of us is going to win and one of us is going to lose. So really, I try not to look at it much further than that. I mean, if there's a guy that I'm fighting that talks shit or is mouthy or is whatever, that kind of changes a little bit because then I'm like, yeah, I really want to hurt you now. But for the most part, it's nothing personal. Like we both signed a contract. We both know what we're here to do. So may the best man win. Like it ain't
Right.
really.
What's
It's
been your
not hard for
favorite?
me to turn that switch on and off.
Right. What's been your favorite fight so far, or your favorite victory? I guess I'll say, or is your favorite victory your favorite fight?
Um, I don't know, man. I have a favorite fight. I'd say probably my favorite fight from my amateur fights. I fought, and it's funny because nobody was there. It was up in like it was actually in Canton, Ohio. It was way up north, and I was fighting this boxer, and he was pretty tough. Like I think he was like 5-1 at the time. I think he had 5 knockouts. He was a pretty scary dude, and he was big for the weight class. And I uh I took the fight, and the first round he actually caught me in a triangle for almost the whole round. But when
Damn.
we were on the yeah, it was wild. But when I was on the feet with him, he was throwing hard. Like I could tell by just blocking the punches. He stuck me too, actually, a couple times, but I could just tell, like, man, this guy's really throwing heat. He's really, really throwing to knock me out. And I actually knocked him out with a left hook. Like,
Got him.
yeah, like 5 seconds into the second round, dude, we came out and touched gloves, and he thought I was going to shoot. And I just hit him with a hook, man. He folded. And that was a super fun fight for me because in the fight, I was thinking, fuck, like, I was like, I don't know if I got anything for this guy on the feet. Like I was thinking that in my head, like, fuck, man, this guy really hits hard. But then I ended up putting him down with a punch. So it was pretty cool. And I didn't have anybody at that fight. So it was kind of just one of them weird ones. But it
Shook
worked out
put the
good.
city on your back and went up there and folded him.
Right, dude. Yeah. So and I typically prefer to fight closer to home than I do out of town. I know a lot of guys that would rather fight with nobody there just because they feel it takes all the weight off of you. No pressure when you're fighting out of town, but I don't really feel that way. I feel like it's the same pressure. You're still going in there to fist fight somebody, whether it's at home or whether it's 1,000 miles away.
Right. So have you had an opponent that it was just talking mad shit and you were like, dude, I'm dicing you. It's over with.
Yeah. My third fight, man. I used to like weigh in and I would like smile and I'd be all happy and like I was just so happy to be there.
Right.
And then I fought this guy in my third fight, and I was that same way. I was like, all happy and shit, and then he like jumped up like in my face, like almost headbutted me and was talking shit. Like
Mm.
he was like, I think he was undefeated. He was 2-0, and I was 2-0 or 3-0 or something. We were both early in our career, but yeah, that was the fight that done it. And I knocked. That was my first knockout. Yeah, man, it was a fun one. And
How long did that one last?
it was like it was the second round. I slammed him. I double legged him against the cage and slammed him, and the slam like pretty much knocked him out. He just like let go of me, and then I just unloaded like 50 punches on him, and he was
Ref was
yeah
like,
he was
back it up, back it
yeah
up.
man he was out. Actually, the guy that ref that he's ref several UFCs. They call him the mini Brock Lesnar. He's a little short jack dude. Looks
Damn, I'll
like
have to check
Brock.
him out.
Yeah, man, his name's Gary Copeland. Awesome ref, but he like launched me, dude. He like literally threw me off this dude. But it was such a cool fight because my teammate, well, Cody, my best friend, he had fought this guy's teammate the very first fight of the night. So that kind of set the tone, and Cody smashed this dude. And then I was just like, yes.
Did that happen a lot for you guys? Doubleheader, like you guys
Oh
both used
yeah.
to fight a lot and both win,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, man. And that's the thing with the momentum is definitely a factor. If you got like 5 or 6 teammates fighting and they all go out there and just wreck their dudes, it's very motivating for you.
right? You don't want to be
It
the one
feels,
guy that lost.
yeah, that and like, man, I get way more nervous for my teammates than I do myself. Like, I don't know what exactly it is. If I just know, like, in my head, like what I'm capable of or what, but man, I used to be a nervous wreck watching my team, watching Cody and a lot of the other guys, man. I just was, whew.
Like nervous they'd get hurt, or just like you didn't know what was
Yeah,
going.
yeah. I just always wanted them to win. I always wanted them to perform well. That's what it is for me. Once I lost for the first time, I realized, like, man, I didn't realize it then, but looking back on it, it's like, man, it's not that bad. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, we can get way better from this. So for me, it's all about the performance, man. If you go out there and perform the best you can, and that person performs a little bit better, then that's just the way it goes. But if you go out there and lay an egg, man, and know in your head that you did not do what you can do, then that hurts. That sucks.
Right. Are
So I just
you
always wanted them to perform well.
are you a one-sided finisher, or are you pretty much like all the way around finisher? As in, like, are you more of a knockout artist, a submission
Nah,
specialist?
I feel pretty all around. Like I can finish it wherever it goes. I like to see how it plays out on the feet these days more, but I'm not opposed to catching a submission if it's there. Not at all. I think I've got 4 or 5 knockout TKOs, and I've got like 4 or 5 submissions, and I've got like 1 or 2, or I've got like 3 decisions. So like I'm kind of split. I don't like to go all 3 rounds. I know that.
I'm sure it's tough.
Yeah, fighting 15 minutes. Yeah, we don't need to do all that. Let's get this shit done.
Right. Um, Leading into a fight, man, what are some of the big key elements of being ready for it, being conditioned for it, understanding what's gonna, what needs to happen to secure a W?
I think number one is the conditioning, the cardio, being in the best physical shape you can possibly be in. I think is huge because I think, especially in a longer fight, the guy who's in better shape is going to have a better chance of pulling it out. A guy that's in better shape can take more damage, can fight for longer. So I think being in the best conditioning that you can be in is pretty key. I think that being in a great place mentally is right there with it. But I think if you're in very, very, very great shape, I think it helps your mental ability a lot.
Right, they go hand in hand most of the time,
Yeah,
I'd
right.
imagine.
Right. So I think preparation, how you're preparing, what your training is, who you're training with. I mean, there's all kinds of factors that kind of play into it for me, but I think what separates like great fighters from okay fighters and then okay fighters from bad fighters is being able to cut that shit down. Like no matter what goes in your head, it's only what you need. Like you can expel all the bad shit. And that's been part of my troubles throughout my career is dispelling the bad shit in my head and the bad scenarios and just focusing on the one that's going to lead us to gold. So I think leading up to the fight, conditioning is number one, right? With mental, making sure you're mentally strong enough to get in there and fight. And then second is going to be your preparation in terms of your training methods, how you're training, if you're sparring a lot, if you're doing more technique, if you're doing your jujitsu, if you're trying to stay all around, or if you're just focusing on just your boxing for the whole camp. Because if you focus on one aspect, the others do slowly diminish, whether you
Right.
realize it or not.
Damn, so UFC, the video game, had it right on point. Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that is really how it goes. I mean, like for me, like I'm a wrestler, so I'm always gonna know the wrestling. Like I'll always be able to tap back into that
Right.
rather quickly. But even still, man, like there's still like I go to wrestling practice a couple times a week now, getting ready for this fight, and just seeing some of the techniques. It's like, hey, okay, I forgot about that one. Like, all right, yes, I'll
Right.
use it. Things like that, and it's refreshing because a lot of it just comes right back to you. Like, oh yes. But I mean, if I did nothing but wrestle this entire camp, then my striking would definitely take a hit.
Right.
So I'm trying to space it out as much as I can.
Would you say as a fighter, especially since you like striking, is it better to have a bigger emphasis on being able to take a punch or throw one?
Uh I'm bit like if I'm teaching people, I'm big on defense because I believe that if you're not getting hit and you're not getting banged up, then you're always gonna be able to have a chance to land your shot. But I think it it can get you further at first, just being able to land your shots. But I think taking a hit is equally as important. If you can't take one, eventually somebody's gonna get you.
Right. When you're in there and you're doing your thing, and you said you like to not specifically focus on defense, but when you're defending, and you're letting the opponent, hit you up and you're blocking it and countering when you can. Now that whole time, are you kind of just learning which moves he goes to specifically, or are you just watching his movements, his flow, his?
Yeah, man. If I'm striking with somebody, I'm just kind of downloading data at first. I'm just kind of taking in where their head's positioned when they're throwing this or throwing that, how quickly they're bringing their hands back to their face when they throw. If they're dropping their hands when they throw a kick, just small things that maybe, okay, next time you do this, maybe I can land this hook, or maybe I can land this or that. So really, it's a reading process, reading your opponent really at first. I've never been the type that just comes out just swinging bombs. Like I would rather have a second to kind of download what I'm up against and see what these tendencies are in real time, because you can watch all the film you want, but when you're in there, it's everything just looks and feels different than it did when you're in the room training. So
Right.
that the adrenaline's a crazy thing, man. It makes shit really live.
How much film do you think you watch? Like, how many of your opponent's fights do you watch, and how long? Like, do you watch every fight? Do you watch the last five, last three, last two?
Typically, man, it's something I try not to even. I normally will watch a fight or two, gain what I can from it, but I really try not to obsess too much over it because, I mean, at the end of the day, the guy might come out and show you something completely different. So I try to just get a generalization of what he does good or not good, and I send the rest to like the guys that I'm working with or my teammates. Like for example, I've sent this to Cody, and I've also sent it to Fry. Fry's actually going to be in my corner for this fight.
Nice. I love Fry. I miss
Yeah,
Fry.
man. That's
He's such a
that's
good guy.
him and Cody, man. Those are my two. Those are my guys. Known them, been with them both since 8th grade. It's been a long ride.
Right. Yeah. Hell yeah. It's been.
But yeah, man, but Fry's a real smart guy, and he really loves this game. So, I've sent it to him and Cody, and then another one of my great teammates is Joe Peg, who is he's also cornering me. But those guys all have I sent them the stuff, they can watch it, and then they can decide from there what I need to do to beat this guy. For me, I'm just gonna get in there and fight, man. Like action reaction, somebody's gonna lose, and it ain't gonna be me. And
Oh God.
that's just kind of how I am with it.
So your training regiment's mostly just fine tuning yourself. You don't even worry about what the opponent's bringing. You're just worried about what you're
Typically.
dropping.
Yeah, nowadays, yes. I wasn't I was see that was a problem when I was younger, is I was always focused on them. Like, oh, what are they doing? Okay, I'll go outwork them. And it's like, no, who gives a shit? They better be working because I am. That's
Right.
how I feel. Like now it's like I don't care what they're doing, how they're preparing. Like I'm doing the best I can do, and then I'm bringing that on fight night, whether you show up or not. Like,
Whether you show up or not.
yeah, man. Like I've had a lot of issues with with an opponent. I've always had issues with like locking in an opponent. And we went through 4 guys for this fight that has now led me to the one that is finally locked in. But I finally told the promoter, like, look, man, I already signed a contract once, so I'm showing up and making weight, and then I'm fighting somebody.
Right.
And he's like, fighting in the cage or out of it. I like it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't. I
Nobody
just
wants
want
to
to
draw
fight.
that short straw.
Yeah, I'm like, I just want to fight in the cage for my money and go home. Like,
Why do you think it's such an issue? Even I mean, like you like
I
to get a fight, like you would think
guess
this is
I'm
what
just
you
like,
train for.
that's scary, man. I don't know. I guess it's my that Conor McGregor esque that people keep saying about
That
me,
eight
man.
that eight pack with the left hand, bro. It's scary.
No, I don't know, man. I think it's just kind of about timing a lot of times. Like the guy that they released the fight poster of me and the dude that I was gonna fight.
Yeah, yeah. That's no longer happening, right?
Right. That's not the fight that's happening. So I don't know what happened or why it's not, but I know that the guy is from Nebraska. So like that's a long way. And I mean, for me, I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't even have signed a contract if you weren't going to do it. But nonetheless, my brother,
Hey, man. Sorry about that.
it's all good, dude. I have no idea what happened. I just noticed that you got silent for a minute. And I looked down and I was like, huh,
Same thing,
hello.
essentially.
But
So
we're back.
yep, we are back. You were saying that the guy that's in your fight is no longer, or the guy that you were postered with is no longer fighting. He's from Nebraska.
Right. Yeah, he's from Nebraska. I think that could have had something to do with maybe him pulling out. I'm not sure. But that's a long ways away, man. I know how it is to go that far.
You think that's what it was? He was worried about fatigue.
Yeah, possibly, man. I tried to post the picture I used for my poster. I tried to make kind of kind of deceiving because that picture that I used was from like 2 years ago, and I was literally in the middle of a weight cut to 145. So I was a lot thinner, a lot skinnier than I am now. So
Oh,
I
you're
was
trying to
trying to
deceive
find
him.
ways to, yeah, well, I just didn't want him to see me and be like, yeah, fuck this. But now with the opponent I have now, it's not going to matter. So,
Right. Who is the opponent you have now?
so the guy that I'm fighting now, his name is Corey Delaney. He's up from the Columbus area, I believe.
Is he? Do you know what gym he's fighting out of? Is he fighting out of a gym or?
He does, and I can't think of the name of the gym off the top of my head. He's got a few decent guys to train there, from what I understand. But I mean, he's definitely a game tough opponent. It's gonna be a fun fight, April 13th for sure.
So that's the next thing I was gonna say. So it's April 13th, and where's it at?
It's at the Mount Orb Sports Complex in downtown Mount Orb.
Mount Orb, Ohio.
Yep, Mount
And
Orb,
you,
Ohio,
it's a
man.
sold out show, but you did what? 18, 17?
Yes. Yeah, I've got around about 20 tickets left. So, and other than that, I don't know that they have any at all.
20 tickets left, and there you said $40 a pop.
Yep, $40 a
$40.
piece, man.
They get into contact with you to get tickets if they want.
You can Facebook me, Jeff Mack on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You can also contact Brandon Phelps, who is the promoter of the fight, or Empire Fight Series on Facebook. Uh, any of those ways they can get a hold of me or whatever, or hit me up directly, direct message on Facebook.
Okay,
We can
hell
get
yeah.
you taken care of, man. They're
Yeah.
definitely going quick, and it's gonna be a wild event for sure.
That do you still think it's going to be? Do you still think that this fight that you have now is going to be propelled as a fight of the night?
Yeah, I think it's more so. I don't think I really personally I think it was good marketing, but I didn't believe that my fight I had was going to be fight of the night. I think it was going to be very, very, very one sided. Um,
Damn.
yeah, I really think the last one was going to be bad. I think the fight I have now, I think Corey Delaney's going to bring it. I think I know I'm going to bring it. So I I expect a lot of fireworks in that one. We're both tough, durable guys. We both like to really fight. Um, he's a strong, athletic guy.
Do you see this
From
being
what
a
I've
stand up?
seen, oh, I see. I honestly, I see it going everywhere. We both have a wrestling base. We both like to fight on the feet. But I see me finishing him on the ground.
Finishing him on the
I
ground. What
think,
round?
yeah. I don't see it going more than two, but I'm looking more towards it being done in the first.
Damn. You heard it here
But
first, betters.
yeah, man, I typically, I pick up steam as the fight goes on. It's just kind of how I've always been. I've always been more of a slow starter, but in the past few fights, it's slowly been turning the other way. Um, but I think it's a great matchup. I think that this matchup is far better than what it was going to be. And I'm really looking forward to getting in there with him and doing the man dance April 13th, see who's better at it.
That's what I like to hear, man. That's what I
I
like to
believe
hear.
it's
Do you
me,
see
man.
how many fights do you see yourself having in 24?
Oh, man. Well, it's winding down, that's for sure. Because like for me personally, to me, I'm not doing this to be the UFC champion. I'm not doing this to be the best in the world anymore. It's more of like a personal vendetta with myself. Um, but to be honest, man, it's getting harder and harder to jump right back into it. I have it's like a obstacle course type deal. I'm trying to think of the name of the big one. Um, but it's like a mile long obstacle course type race that I'm doing in June. So I was getting ready for that anyway. Maybe there might be two more. Maybe.
What, like the Spartan race type deal?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. It's something like that I'm getting ready for in June. So I don't know. This show was talking about possibly coming back to Mount Orb, 2 to 3 times a year. They said something about coming back in September, possibly. So I'm kind of taking it one fight at a time, but I don't see me having more than two more. Period.
Two more fights, period?
Yep.
Damn, you heard it, man. Three
Yep.
more fights. Three more times to see Jeff Mack in the fucking ring.
Yeah, man. It's definitely it's ticking down. I just there's so many more things that I am into nowadays. Connor's going to be starting to do things soon, and I am just not willing to put that second. That's going to be always my number one objective. Is him. So to me it feels selfish because I know what it takes to be an MMA fighter, and it pretty much takes nothing but just that all the time.
Right.
And it's just I just not something I'm really willing to do and sacrifice for anymore. So it's just I'm getting older and times are changing, my mind's changing, and but I still got the dog in me, man. I got to get that out. I
So my next
can't be walking around society with the dog in me still.
right. Well, and that was good. So I guess my second to last question would be, where do you see yourself with fighting in the next 10 years? I mean, obviously you said you're probably not going to fight anymore. Do you see yourself
Yeah,
being a coach, a gym owner, a
yeah,
fucking
man.
trainer?
Like long term for me, like way down the line, who knows when, but eventually, I plan to own a house and own. I want to build a barn specifically for training. Man, I want it to be half weights, half lifting gym, and then half of it's going to be an MMA type gym. And I'm going to have a cage and bags, enough for, a few people to get work in. And it's just going to be open to the public, man. And whoever wants to train is always going to have a spot. If you want to get new equipment, there'll be like a donation box type deal, but I ain't charging nobody nothing. Come in and train. And yeah, I feel like I'll always have a little bit of my foot in the game. I don't feel like I'll ever be completely out because I love it. But as for me fighting, it's coming to a close. I'll definitely still coach people. I do private lessons with people, kids, adults, women. I do I do a little bit of training with everybody. So I'll always have my foot in that, but That's about where it will end with me. I don't think I'll ever own like a fight team or like that, but guys will always have a place to train if they don't have one with me. So
Right. Fair enough. Well, man, that's all the questions I have for you. I appreciate you working with me through this entire process,
dude, not a problem.
being my first. This is my first episode like this, so I appreciate you sticking it out with me and
No
doing your
problem.
thing. And you got anything that you want to say to anybody else, or?
Man, I appreciate you giving me a little bit of a platform to say a little bit about myself. It's always awesome talking to you, man. We've always had good conversation. I think that's kind of what helped our friendship a lot, man. We
Oh
always
yeah,
got along
100%.
well. We always spoke well with each other, and you're a real stand up guy. No, man, I have nothing else really to say other than shout out to my two sponsors, my gym, Advocate of Iron. Those guys are awesome. They always take care of me. Great place to work out. Great environment. Open 24/7. So it's a really good gym to be at. And also shout out to Oakmont Northern, which is my place of work. We're the heat treat mercenaries. There ain't a problem that we can't solve, man.
Hell
Everybody
yeah.
over there is awesome. Love these guys. So, other than that, man, I just appreciate your time having me on, dude. It's been a blast.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual, man. We need to link up soon.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And hey, we're going to celebrate a victory a month from now. So, stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be there. I'm actually probably gonna once I get off this, I'll probably look into getting some tickets from you. I just got to work
Yeah,
a few things around, but I'll
no,
get
no
at you on
problem.
that.
No problem. Just let me know, bro.
Will do, man. And that's all I got for you, brother. Everybody, thanks for listening to the Skidoo Lounge. This is signing out.
All right. See you, brother.
See you, bro.